So, I've already made videos on Midas and the Golden Touch and the Bacchae, which are two of the more popular Dionysus stories, but there are plenty more where they came from. Each one is kinda small though, so instead of multiple small videos, why not fuse them all into one? Here are some stories about Dionysus, explaining his birth, how he became associated with wine, and that time he tried conquering India. Consider supporting me on Patreon or Ko-fi. You'll find the links below. Thank you. All Greek myths usually start with the main character's parents hook up, and Dionysus is no exception. It's the usual chain of events. Zeus had a thing with a mortal woman, her name was Semele, and she ended up pregnant with Zeus's child. Unsurprisingly, this pissed Hera off, but instead of confronting Zeus about it, she went down to Earth to trick the girl. Hera disguised herself as an old woman and told Semele that she had no way of knowing that Zeus was the dad of her child, and that the only way she could know is if he revealed his true form to her. The next time Semele saw Zeus, she demanded he reveal his true form to prove he's really the king of Olympus. Zeus obliged, despite knowing the consequences. Those consequences being, any mortal who sees a god's true form will be instantly vaporized. And that's exactly what happened to Semele. She was incinerated by Zeus's divine energy. Zeus managed to save the fetus Dionysus though, and he sewed the baby into his leg so that he could finish gestating. Since Dionysus is the son of a god and a mortal, you'd expect him to be a demigod, but because he finished growing inside Zeus, Dionysus is a full-on regular god now. Once Dionysus was born, he couldn't stay in Olympus because Hera wanted him dead, so Zeus sent him to be raised by his aunt and uncle, the relatives of Semele. To add an extra layer of protection from Hera, they raised Dionysus as a girl. This plan unfortunately failed though, and Hera found out where Dionysus was hiding. Hera drove Dionysus' aunt and uncle to insanity, causing them to murder their own biological children before going after Dionysus. Zeus was able to intervene at this point, and he saved his son. Knowing that Hera would be able to do anything to mortals, Zeus decided to hide Dionysus with someone who Hera could not touch, Dionysus' grandmother, Rhea. Dionysus was raised by Rhea, and at that point no more attacks from Hera came his way. As Dionysus got older, he discovered two things that'll be wicked important to him down the line: his love of wine and his sexuality. By the time he was a teenager, Dionysus discovered how to make wine, and he was so excited by this, he wanted to share it with his boyfriend, Ampelos. They both loved wine and they wanted to make even more, so Ampelos climbed a tree to get more grapes. The story doesn't say if he was sober or intoxicated when this happened, so I'll leave that to you to decide. Unfortunately for Ampelos, his grip wasn't tight enough and he fell from the tree, hitting the ground and dying on impact. Dionysus was heartbroken at this loss, but he continued making wine to honor his first love. Later on, Dionysus made a shepherd, Icaros, and introduced him to some wine. Icaros then gave some to the other shepherds he knew, but they thought they were being poisoned, so they killed Icaros. Dionysus really felt like he messed up, so he revived Icaros by making him a constellation in the sky, who you know as Boots, the herdsman. Dionysus continued traveling the countryside, introducing more and more people to wine. During his travels, he gained a group of followers, who he eventually calls the Maenads. And now, time for the conquest part. This next story comes from the Dionysiaca. The Dionysiaca is a relative latecomer compared to other Greek epics. This one was written in the 5th century AD. Yeah, this is pretty much the last epic of Greek paganism in a way. The story details the life of Dionysus, and most notably, his journey to India and back. Why is Dionysus going to India, you might ask? Well, Zeus wanted to conquer India, and Dionysus, who, again, he is a god at this time, but not an Olympian, wanted to help his father, and he decided the best way to win his father's favor was to conquer India for him. Dionysus and his Maenads went off to India to do battle, and this is where Hera comes back into the picture. She doesn't want another one of Zeus's children sitting on the throne of Olympus. Hera sent two ancient hitmen after Dionysus, the sea god Nereus and the king of Thrace, Lycurgus. Dionysus managed to defeat both of them in battle, and then his group of Maenads progressed through the Near East and into India. Hera was so pissed that her wannabe assassins failed, and she really didn't want Dionysus on the Olympian Council, so she decided to betray Greece and help the Indian army battle against Dionysus. When the battle began, it was in the Indians' favor until Dionysus went on a rampage, massacring hundreds of Indian soldiers in a mad frenzy of insanity. The survivors were so terrified, and Dionysus realized he may have gone a little overboard, so he makes it up to them by giving them wine. But this was a trick. The surviving Indian soldiers got wicked drunk, and the Maenads took them prisoners. Hera was just done at this point and wanted Dionysus gone, so she enlisted one of the Furies to cast a spell on him. The Fury does as she is told, and it works way better than expected. When the Fury influenced Dionysus, he went completely feral and wandered into the wilderness. Nobody could find him. Yes, you heard me right. The god of madness has been driven insane by an outside source. Irony is as old as humanity's storytelling. Without their leader, the Maenads were disorganized, and the Indian soldiers, who by now were sobering up, and killed many of the Maenads. At this point, Zeus comes back into the picture, and when he looks over at India, he sees his son just going insane in the wilderness, currently wandering all over Asia. Zeus asked around on Olympus if anyone knew why Dionysus was going crazy through the hills of India, and eventually he learns it was Hera who sent a fury to drive Dionysus into insanity. Zeus orders Hera to reverse the curse, and as punishment for sabotaging the Greek invasion of India, she must breastfeed Dionysus, which would make him her adopted son. Breastfeeding a teenager, that's gross. Dionysus returned to Greece with a new group of Maenads, and upon Dionysus' return, he becomes the 12th Olympian. But it's important to note, Dionysus does not replace Hestia, at least not in any story. In modern times, there's kind of a rumor that Hestia gave up her position on Olympus to Dionysus to prevent a war, but there's no actual ancient world source for that. What more likely happened is that Hestia was gradually phased out of the Olympian Council, and Dionysus took her place, as one became more popular than the other. So that was Dionysus' biggest adventure yet, but I'll leave you with one final quick story. Dionysus has a wife, and her name is Ariadne. She was a mortal woman who was originally in love with Theseus, until he abandoned her on some random island in the Aegean. Dionysus felt really sorry for Ariadne, and he went down to make her feel better. While he consoled her, the two fell in love, and later on in life when Ariadne died, don't ask how, there are different versions all over the place, Dionysus went to the underworld to retrieve her soul, and he made her a god so she could live on Olympus with him. We don't know how Hades felt about this, but I don't imagine he was pleased, since when Asclepius brought Orion back from death, that got both of them smited almost instantaneously. I guess Dionysus got a pass because he's the favorite child or something, I don't know. Okay, for real, one last thing, I just found this. There is a mosaic found in Antioch of Heracles and Dionysus having a drinking contest. The fact that this mosaic exists suggests this could have been a scene from a now lost story, but unfortunately, we don't know who wins because we only have art. If there was a story, it's gone now. But man, challenging the god of alcohol to a drinking contest, that is such a Heracles thing to do. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far into the video, please consider leaving a like and comment telling me what you thought. I also have a Patreon, Ko-fi, and other methods of financially supporting me which can be found below. So until next time, have a good one.